It's now more expensive to be a tenant in Britain than at any point in history. So if you feel like you spend all your money on rent, you're kind of right. The average person is forking out around 44% of their salary on keeping a roof over their heads, according to Rightmove's rental trends tracker. This is up from 40% 5 years ago. If you're living in London, you'll be spending a dizzying average of £2,736 on rent, which is 1.6% higher than 12 months ago. And if you're outside the capital, it'll be £1,385, up 3.1% compared to the same point. Even though this is a slight dip compared to recent years, tenants will still be feeling the pinch as the increase equals out to paying an extra 20 quid every 3 months. The director at Renters Reform Coalition told the Daily Mail that rent prices are out of control and that the only way to stop the affordability crisis was to introduce rent caps. One poll revealed that nearly a third of tenants are struggling just to afford basic necessities like groceries. What do you think needs to be done to help with the renting crisis?
£1,400 average rent, £2,736 if you dare live in London. 44% of your salary gone before you've even bought a pint of milk. That's not a roof over your head. That's a life sentence. Private tenants are now officially spending more of their income on rent than at any point in British history. Landlords selling up, corporates circling, rent still skyrocketing. We hit the streets, the house shares and the group chats to ask the question everyone's screaming into the void. How the hell are we supposed to live like this? This is Britain on the Brink, the Rent Crisis edition. Buckle up.
Where roughly are you based and how much does it cost in rent and bills?
I live in just outside of Greenwich. It's about 2,500 in bills.
Ooh, that's pricey. Do you have housemates?
So I live with my partner, so we kind of share the bills together.
Oh, so that 2.5 is split between two people.
That's with the two of us. Before that, roughly my bills before him was about 1,000.
I live just in Bethnal Green and I pay $795 all in, that's a really good deal that I have.
Do you live with lots of people or?
I live with 3 other people.
Is it a house, a flat?
A house. So it is a gorgeous house as well. So it's a good deal. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, got like a garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a great deal.
I'm up just off the canal by Broadway Market and I just bought a house, so I pay about 2,400 on mortgage, bills and everything included.
You got a nice place for that?
Decent enough, yeah. Enough for me and a dog.
How much do you pay?
Well, I'm based in the local East End and rent is about £600 a month.
That's really good.
Not bad for a 1-bedroom flat, but it's still expensive
Yeah.
because if you haven't got a regular income.
How much is it with the bills?
I'd say just over 1,000.
I live with my parents. I live by Luton. I'm very lucky that my parents don't charge me to live there. I then try and save about £400–500 a month. I pay my mum the money to save as like board.
If you're renting, here's how your monthly spend compares to others your age. Recent data shows tenants in England spent an average of 36.6% of their gross income on rent in 2023-24. And in London and the South East, it goes much higher, up to 44% of their take-home pay. And that's why saving can feel impossible for many renters. So here are 3 quick checks that you can make this week. Calculate your income to rent ratio and aim to keep that under 30% if possible. And here's a little tip. You can check what others are paying in your postcode on Rightmove and Zoopla. So if you're spending well over the average, see if you can renegotiate your rent. Alternatively, house share or move when your lease ends. Comment your age band and your rent to income ratio. Let's compare.
The war on landlords will make rents go up, and here's why that's guaranteed. You can forget the headlines as well. This is simple supply and demand, basic economics. According to the NRLA, 30% of private landlords now plan to leave the market because it has become unworkable. So if a third of suppliers leave a market, guess what happens to the rent? It goes up every single time. And here's the other bit that no one's actually mentioning. Corporate landlords love this. If every private landlord is forced out at a lower price, that means that it becomes a corporate acquisition's dream. So the government is calling this tenant protection. But if supply shrinks, what's going to happen to the tenants that are left there paying more rent? Follow for more real housing truths and comment, should we protect tenants or focus on increasing supply rather than restricting it?
How the fuck are people still surviving? I made a video about this about a year ago saying how the fuck does the normal family survive with the cost of everything? Well, new figures came out yesterday. The average rent in the UK now is £1,400 a month. So you've got to earn just over £15,000 a year after tax just for your rent. That doesn't include household bills, gas, electric, mortgage, council tax. It doesn't include food, doesn't include your Sky, your internet, your mobile phone, doesn't include petrol for your car, doesn't include tax for your car, doesn't include insurance. So realistically, if you're not earning 50 grand a year, you ain't surviving. Well, you're certainly not thriving. So my question is, how the fuck are people still affording to live? Council tax goes up every year. Gas and electric goes up every year. Inflation goes up every year. People's mortgages are going up. How is this a thing? How is the average rent £1,400 a month? I'm flabbergasted. Fucking broken Britain. There's going to be nothing left soon.
But I think the challenge is that obviously the government wants to see rental properties being sold because that releases capital gains tax and stamp duty on anybody subsequently buying it.
I've never thought that. They were after the stamp duty.
Of course they are.
And then the capital gains tax.
Of course they are. So the adage is the house is still there. So if I'm landlord X, for example, and I've had the house for 20 years, and we're all there saying, no, you've got to leave the rental market alone, that's fine. That house might stay there for another 20 years. Whereas if, for example, a landlord is in a position where they sell that on, then he's got capital gains tax to pay, 20 years worth of capital gains tax, and that puts money into the economy. And, of course, anybody new buying it, whether they're a first-time buyer or a second-time buyer, then you're in a position where you're probably creating then the stamp duty.
Okay.
And certainly if there's another investor, then you're creating a stamp duty.
You're so right, and I'd never stop to think that one through.
The average rent in the UK is now £1,400 per month. How is that doable for most people? Imagine you're single and live by yourself. Meanwhile, the minimum wage. Now, if you're on minimum wage, working full time, you are maybe taking home what? £1,650 a month after tax? Probably best case scenario. So you've got what? £250 to pay your electric, your gas, your water and food, and also pay to travel to work. And that is just to survive. You haven't even done any living yet. Yet certain people get everything handed to them on a silver platter, never doing a day's work in their lives. I know people that have got several kids, never worked a day in their lives, and have better houses and better standard of living than people that work full time. Everything gets paid for while the other half struggle like mad. Even if you earn a decent wage these days, an above average wage, 45,000 a year maybe, and you're by yourself, it's still hard. The UK is becoming a miserable place to live, and it is only getting worse. No wonder people are leaving, especially millionaires, in their droves. There has to be more to life than paying £1,400 a month rent. Seriously, let me know what you think of this in the comments.
There's been a 50% increase in our rent since the start of COVID, according to Rightmove, which is extraordinary. It means the average rent, which is £10,000, increasing as high as £15,000 a year. And this is the thing. We currently live in the drawbridge. This idea that on one side the drawbridge is going up and it's a downhill slalom for people who own assets. Their passive income kicks in. They can use that passive income to buy more assets. They generate more passive income. But on the other side of the drawbridge, there's an uphill slalom. People are finding life harder and harder as the cost of living increasing. And because they don't own assets, they're not benefiting from the inflation. And so what do we do about it? Well, in Scotland, they've just introduced rent caps, CPI plus 1%. Now, that is problematic because it sounds like the Scottish government just introduced a rent cap, and obviously to a degree it has. But CPI plus 1% as of August would be about 4.8%. And so the challenge that the government has is that if they were to introduce a flat rent cap, which is what Scotland did initially, they saw the overnight withdrawal of investment to Scotland. House building just stopped. It ceased. And house building in itself is important because obviously it provides work, it provides jobs, it provides industry, and it's a major component of many economies. So they're in a bind, and the UK government is in a bigger bind than anyone else because they've promised to build 1.5 million homes, and they can't therefore introduce rent caps because they know that if they introduce rent caps, overnight investment would withdraw. That 100 billion that Blackstone had promised them, that would be withdrawn overnight. Because the only reason why institutions invest into the rental sector, into PRS, into build to rent, is because they are banking on the fact that rents increase higher than inflation. That is the whole bet. They want to beat inflation. You know, if the government introduces rent caps that effectively undermine that prevent that from happening, then inward investment withdraws overnight. And there is the bind. There is the the problem at the heart of the housing of the housing cycle, which is we need to build more homes, we need investment, but ultimately rents are going crazy, and the government can't introduce rent caps because it needs those people to invest into the housing stock, which they will be deterred from if it introduces rent caps.
लंदन में एक प्राइवेट रूम का रेंट क्या होता है, तो चलिए आज मैं आपको मेरे यूके के घर की टूर देता हूँ। तो सबसे पहले घर के अंदर आते ही यहाँ पर हमें मिल जाता है एक छोटा सा पैसेज। यहाँ पर जो ईमेल्स पोस्ट आते हैं वो यहाँ पर पड़ा रहता है। फिर घर के मेन दरवाजे से अंदर आते ही यहाँ पर ये कॉमन एरिया स्टार्ट हो जाता है। यहाँ पर है एक डबल बेडरूम एंड एक डबल बेडरूम यहाँ पर भी है। एंड यहाँ पर हमें मिल जाता है इलेक्ट्रिसिटी रूम, जहाँ पर से सारी इलेक्ट्रिसिटी घर की मैनेज होती है। वॉशरूम यहाँ पर भी मिल जाता है। फिर यहाँ आगे आते ही हमारा किचन स्टार्ट हो जाता है। यहाँ पर एक मिलता है एक गैस, नीचे यहाँ पर हमें एक ओवन भी मिलता है। यहाँ पर है चिमनी, यहाँ पर है एक बड़ा सा फ्रिज, यहाँ पर हमें मिल जाता है वॉशिंग मशीन एंड यहाँ पर है जो हीटर है, पानी गर्म करने का हीटर। यहाँ पर है एक माइक्रोवेव, सबके जो सामान का है स्टोरेज है। यहाँ पर छोटा सा एक एक्स्ट्रा फ्रिज यहाँ पर भी है। तो अब मैं आपको घर का सबसे बेस्ट पार्ट दिखाता हूँ। ये दरवाजे के बाहर जाते ही हमें यहाँ पर मिल जाता है एक बड़ा सा बैकयार्ड, जहाँ पर हम चाहे तो बढ़िया सा घर के अंदर सब लोग बैठ सकते हैं, गैदरिंग कर सकते हैं। चलते हैं फर्स्ट फ्लोर पे। तो अब हम आ चुके हैं फर्स्ट फ्लोर पर, जहाँ पर है एक वॉशरूम और ये 3 अलग अलग रूम, जिसमें से ये है अपना रूम। तो मेरे रूम में मुझे मिला है यहाँ पर एक छोटा सा डबल बेड, यहाँ पर है एक वर्किंग टेबल जिसमें ये चेयर मैंने यहाँ पर खुद से ली है। यहाँ पर है एक छोटी सी विंडो एंड ये है एक कपबोर्ड, ये है एक ड्रोवर। तो मेरे रूम का रेंट है 650 पाउंड पर मंथ, जो इंडिया के 75,000 रुपीज से भी ज्यादा होता है। एंड अगर आप यूके में अकोमोडेशन फाइंड कर रहे हो या आपके पास अकोमोडेशन अवेलेबल है रेंट पे देने के लिए, जो भी आपकी क्वेरी हो नीचे कमेंट्स में टाइप कर दो ताकि वहां से सबकी हेल्प हो सके। ऐसे ही अमेजिंग वीडियोस के लिए फॉलो वंडरिंग विद MBA।
How much do you pay for rent?
2,500 a month.
And which zone do you live in or area?
Zone 6.
I pay 870 a month.
And which zone do you live in?
I live in zone 1. It's 2,800 or 2 bed, 2 bath.
Which zone do you live in?
It's pretty close from here. So
Zone 2. Okay, did you know you can boost your credit by reporting your rent payments to TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax? Get started with Zama app today. Link in bio.
The cost of living is getting worse because rent is taking up more of our money. Check this out. There's a new survey from Rightmove and it shows that the amount of money that people spend on rent is going up. 5 years ago, it used to be 40% of take-home pay. Today, it is 44. So in some areas, rent's going up by like 25% in a year, but salaries go up in 5% in a year. It's just not good enough. This is not good enough. We've got to push back against it. Ordinary people getting screwed by the system. It's not about whether or not you're left or right wing. We've got to come together, push back against being abused by the system, build our fair future.
Yeah, the numbers are brutal. Yeah, the system feels rigged. But look at what we just heard. People still finding £795 gems in Zone 1, splitting £2,500 with a partner and making it work, living rent-free with parents and stacking every penny. We're getting squeezed harder than ever. But we're not broken yet. This isn't the end of the story, it's the wake-up call. Demand rent caps. Demand more homes. Demand a country that works for the people who actually live in it. Because if we shout loud enough, together, they have to listen.